And with NGPF, and today I'm going to show you how to build your own custom amortization spreadsheet using Google Sheets. Let's go ahead and get started. So if we go to our template here, we can see we have those terms to put in. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's put in the loan principal, $12,500, the interest rate, which was 3.5%, the term, which was going to be 3 years or 36 months, and the payment, which was $366.28. So we've got our payments in, and now we could just retype all of this out in a chart, the first payment, the second payment, the third payment, and just calculate these by hand, but we're going to use a spreadsheet to make it easier. So for that first payment, that's going to be equal to whatever this payment value is. So equal to, you can just click on that box or you can type in E4 and we're going to get that payment right there. For the interest, that's going to be equal to the principal times the interest rate, but remember that's the annual interest, so we need to divide it by 12. All right, and that's going to get us $36.46. The principal, the amount of this payment that goes to principal is going to be, you can see autofill is trying to fill it in for me already, but it's going to be that payment amount minus however much interest we're going to owe. That's going to get us that principal amount. And for our remaining balance, that's going to be equal to this $12,500 minus whatever we paid in principal that month. So now we've got that filled in right there, and we can just use those values, much quicker calculations, but a spreadsheet will allow us to expand this even faster. So what we can do is we can copy these formulas, and with this little blue square in the corner, we can click that and drag it down, and what it's going to do is it's going to copy all of our formulas for us, so we only have to put those formulas in once. So let's see what happens. All right, we've got some errors. What's the problem here? Let's click into one of these values and see what's wrong. Let's get this payment value. What is it trying to calculate? We can look up here in the top. It's trying to use cell E5. And the reason it's doing that is because it copied the E4, but that's a relative reference. So when you go down one cell, it's going to assume that you want to go down one cell that you're referencing. The problem is we want that to stay the same the whole time. We want that payment to stay fixed the whole time. So what we need to do to adjust that is we need to add a $ in front of the E to fix the column and a $ in front of the 4 to say always use column E, row 4, and that is going to get us that $366 again. And if we just adjust this second one, we always want to be using C4 for that interest rate. So we can do $C, $4 for that interest rate. That's going to fix that. And for the principal, we always are going to be using the ones to the left and to the right. So we don't want to fix this because that's going to always use this first payment of B7. It's always going to use the interest from this first row, but that interest is going to be changing. So we want to leave those actually as relative references. And our remaining balance, again, we're going to have B4 minus D7. So we're always going to want to be referencing this one here. And then we're going to run into another problem if we use B4 up here. If we fix it, it's always going to be subtracting from this original loan principal, which isn't what we want. We want it to subtract from the previous remaining balance. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to highlight this and insert a row above, so that what we actually want is we want this first remaining balance to reference the loan principal, and then we want this column to reference the balance from the row above. So that's going to be E7. So it's going to take that 12,500 and subtract whatever we paid on the principal to get our remaining balance. Now when we copy that down and fill through these three rows, we're going to see the payment copied, the remaining value copied one down, and now we have an error. What's wrong with that? Well, the interest, we had that same problem. We don't want to be using B4 because now in the second value, B5 is nothing. So we want to change this reference as well to that E7, which is the previous remaining balance. And if we calculate that and fill that down, we'll now get our chart. All right, now over here we can see we want to calculate some total payments. There's a few ways to do this. The easiest is going to be to use the sum formula, and it's just going to sum a range of values. So we want to say, what were our total payments? Well, we can come over here and we can do one of two things. We can highlight these three, which is going to give us the sum of B8 to B10. So of these first 3 months, we paid $1,098.84. The problem with that is if we continue our chart, we're going to see more payments, but this summary is not going to update. So what we actually want to do, since we're not using anything else, we're not going to put any formulas here, we can just do from B8 colon to B. And what that's going to do is it's going to say start at B8 and sum everything below B8 no matter what gets put in. We want to do the same thing for the interest and the principal paid. And so you'll notice there's payment, interest, principal, payment, interest, principal. So what we can do is we can actually fill this row over and double check that's summing column C8 and down, and the total principal is summing column D8 and down. So that's just another way that you can copy those over. The last thing we want to show you is now that we've built our spreadsheet, we might want to use this for another one, change some loan terms. So we can come down here to the tab, right click and say duplicate. And what we're going to get is we're going to get a second tab with a copy of that form right here.